Hey guys, Sean Bougie, surplusfundsriches.net, and today we're going to talk about three of the weirdest surplus funds cases we've worked to date. Third place is a tie between the fugitive and the elusive Mr. X. Second place is the entitled ex-con, drug dealer actually, and the third place is Dr. Terrorist. So let's get right into it. You can go, by the way, check us out, surplusfundsriches.net. We partner with folks on surplus funds deals if they purchase our programs. We also teach you how to do it on your own. Number three is a tie, the fugitive and the elusive Mr. X. The fugitive actually called us back after we had left multiple messages, and Judy was working with me at the time, and she would play messages that she thought were interesting out loud for everybody in the office. And this guy calls back and says, "Hey, I want y'all to know I'm not going to fall for it. I fell for it when you said I won the lottery. I'm not going to fall for it when you say I got money waiting for me from the sale of that house. So I am not going to fall for it. Y'all can eat and bark at the moon." And hangs up. So of course we looked him up, found out he was very abusive, had beat the snot out of a girl. So we called the cops, gave them the phone number that we had. Of course they were able to backtrack the phone number to a billing address, track him down and get him. Why would you call and leave that message and let people know they got the right guy if you're a fugitive? The other one that tied with the fugitive is the elusive Mr. X. This was a gentleman who was illiterate, not making fun, he couldn't read or write. That's just how it was. He said, "Look, I've got to sign with an X." We said, "That's fine. We're going to set a mobile notary. As long as you've got a picture ID proving it's you, mobile notary can actually notarize X as a name. They really can." So mobile notary took a picture of it wasn't a driver's license, but a state-issued ID, and notarized the document, sent him back. And the way we work, we do a structured buyout. So within 10 business days, 2 weeks, he had a check for the 10% of the gross amount. It was a $40,000 retrieval. He had a check for $4,000, and then he was going to get more money when we successfully got out of the court. So he calls me 2 weeks after he got the check and cashed it, and he says, "Hey, I've decided to go another direction. I'm going to go ahead and work this on my own." Well, the way my agreement works is, hey, if you go out and try to work this on your own, you're responsible for getting the initial buyout back. It's good faith money, non-refundable, unless you try to go around us, in which case we need the money back, and you need to pay for any cost incurred by our attorneys. And I told him that. I said, "That's fine. There's actually an out in there. I'm going to need," and nobody ever exercises that, guys, "but I'm going to need the $4,000 back, and whatever my attorney says whatever his work is worth up to this date. He's already started the motion, so probably $1,000 or $1,500. I'll call him, and I'll call you back with the numbers." Well, wait a minute. What? I was going to use that $4,000 to pay the attorney. "Yeah, you can't do that." He goes, "Well, I got another thing I want to talk to you about." I said, "All right." And he says, "I signed that X a different way than I normally sign the X, so you're not going to be able to prove that it was my X." I said, "Sir, you seem to have forgotten that we sent a mobile notary out who got a picture of your state-issued ID and saw you, witnessed you do that. And the state will take, and the counties, will take a notarization over your word, especially when we have a picture of your state-issued ID." And apparently he had forgotten about that, so we ended up getting the money out for him. But he made a valiant effort there. Number two is the entitled ex-con. So the property had foreclosed in September of the year before. Let's say it was 2021, because I'm recording this in 2022. September. I called and said, "Hey, my case manager said, called her, you got money owed, but this particular case, the case manager, Kayla, said, 'Sean, you've got to talk to her. I don't know how to deal with this lady.'" I said, "Okay." So I called her and said, "You know about the money, it's there, you know what we do, you know what the percentages are." And she goes, "Yeah, but I need you to know I'm going to try to get this property back." I said, "Well, that was September of last year." It was like 6 months later. "That was September of last year. Good luck. It's going to cost a lot of money, and we'll see if that turns out. But your other option, of course, is to get the surplus funds." She said, "Well, you need to know how the bank screwed me." And I said, "How'd the bank screw you?" "Well, I bought the house in January, and I got incarcerated." And the way she said it was like she had randomly gotten picked up on the side of the street, and they had just thrown her in jail for no reason. And I said, "You got incarcerated?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, so what did you get convicted of and put in jail for?" She said, well, I was dealing drugs, but that's not what I'm talking about here today. I said, okay, what are you talking about here today? She says, well, I bought the property and 8 months later, the bank foreclosed on me. And I said, well, how many payments did you make? None. And you expected them to be okay with that and to not foreclose on you? Well, given these circumstances I was in, yes. I said, what, because you got arrested for dealing drugs and you were in jail so you couldn't make the payments? She goes, well, that's just part of it. I gave my family $10,000 so that they could make, the payments for me, and they instead decided to use that to buy drugs. I said, okay. She goes, and when I called the bank and explained all this, they said they were going to foreclose. I said, so you called the bank and told them that you got convicted of dealing drugs, that you left $10,000 in drug money for your family to pay the mortgage, and they decided to use it to buy drugs. They were drug addicts. And now you're angry because they actually foreclosed on you, knowing that you had all these issues. That's absolutely right. They should have given me more time. I told them I was going to be able to make that. I was going to be out in another month, and I'd be able to catch them up really quick. And I said, and how exactly were you going to catch? She said, I explained that. She said, I usually made anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in a week dealing drugs. I was going to be able to catch them right up. And I said, and they would not work with you? That is shocking. She goes, I know, right? I said, well, you should probably open up a case for that. I don't think we should be working with you. I think you should hire an attorney, explain to him all this, and see where it goes. And she said, you know what? That's what I've been thinking. I think I'm going to do that. It just reminds me of the story, right? Everybody hears the story where the cops get the call and the guy goes, hey, man, some guy just stole my weed from me. Oh my God. All right, whatever. Last one, Dr. Terrorist. Unfortunately, this one is not quite as funny as the rest, but it's a real thing, and it's just so weird I can't even... Anyway, this guy had it was close to $1 million in overage, and we contacted him. We actually struck a deal. Went very easily. Got all the paperwork in, hired the attorney, started the process, and we were about a week out from making the first payment, which was going to be about $100,000, almost $100,000 to him. And we got notice from our attorney, look, I got to stop the case. There was an IRS tax lien that we didn't see at first. And I said, that's great, so I'm not going to pay this guy. He was a doctor, he was a medical doctor. And he said, you got to read it. He said, I'm going to stop the case, but you have to read this thing, man. I said, all right. So he said, and I said, what's it about? No, you got to read it. So I got it. And it looked like on the surface a regular IRS tax lien, federal tax lien. Didn't have the drop dead date, the expiration date, but a lot of them don't because everybody kind of knows it's 10-year lien and that's it. So I was like, okay, I'm reading that. But it didn't mention what years it was for. What taxes is this against that were unpaid? Normally they do. Didn't mention that. I thought that was odd. Page 2. This is in lieu of a conviction. Ooh, what? This guy had been taken to court for aiding and abetting terrorists. He was using money. He was financing terrorists with money he made from his practice. Now, the government, in its infinite wisdom, this was years ago, by the way, in its infinite wisdom decided, you know what? We don't want to take his medical license. No, he can't be dangerous like that. We don't want to take his medical license. And we don't want to convict him. What we'd rather do, since he's a high-profile doctor, is put about $1 million, and it was exactly $1 million. That was the other giveaway, exactly $1 million, as a lien against him, and he's going to have to pay us. And this will be a non-expiring lien, which I'd never seen before. I'm not even sure if that's legal. Okay, so he calls me and says, "Where's my money?" I said, "Hey, I'm sending you I am canceling." Avoiding out the contract right now. I'm sending it to you. And he said, why? And I explained what I had found. And he said, well, that was a misunderstanding. And I said, I want to make sure I understand this, doctor. So you're a doctor, very, very lucrative practice, successful practice. And instead of fighting them and going to court to clear your name, you decided, forget it, I'll just pay your $1 million. When your legal help would have been maybe, what, $250,000? You decided to do that. So it's all a misunderstanding, and you're just going to explain that to people in the future that it's a misunderstanding and it has no basis in truth. He said, well, you have no right to tell me how to live my life. I said, I don't. Do whatever you want. I'm just telling you why I don't believe you. You're getting a voided contract. Have a nice day. There is no way I work with that guy. Hope you guys have found this interesting. I'll keep them coming. There's a lot more stories we've got, particularly in flips. Listen, even if you don't want to work flipping real estate, which goes really hand in hand with surplus funds, you can see it on our site, surplusfundsriches.net. But even if you don't want to do that, watch my videos on the stories, because I have a ton of Wild West stories on when we were flipping property. Thanks for taking a moment to watch this. Have a great day.